If you have a presence on social media, particularly Twitter, you will know that there's a certain topic that resurfaced recently. And there's this clip going around where there's several UK journalists speaking about this particular tweet by this person, Danny Baker, and whether he should have been fired from his job from the BBC. This photo right here, this is a tweet by this guy. He's a UK journalist from the BBC named Danny Baker. He put out a tweet when Prince Archie was born. This was the tweet. Royal Baby Lee's Hospital. And it's a picture of two people holding a monkey baby. Archie is a quarter black. His mother is half black. His father is white. But even then, he got compared to a monkey. So, just want to put it in context for those of you who don't really, or who was not aware. And in this video, it is literally one black person there. Her name is Afia Hirsch. You may remember her from Meghan and Harry's documentary on Netflix. And she's done a lot of things, speaking about race over in the UK. And you don't quite see her as much, a lot anymore like you used to. But in this clip, it is her and them speaking about whether Danny Baker should have gotten fired from his job for making this tweet. And it is one of the most uncomfortable things I've seen in a long time. And mind you, this clip came out about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. But just like a lot of things on the internet, it has a way of coming back from the dead. And I think now with a set of new eyes that I have since everything has happened and transpired with Meghan and Harry, it is just as bad, maybe even worse now. So we're going to dissect this clip and let's have some talk.
Now, did the BBC really have to sack Danny Baker? I have to declare an interest. I was the producer of a show with Danny more than 30 years ago, and I've always thought of him as a really good bloke, a brilliant broadcaster, and one of the funniest men I've ever met. And anyone who knows Danny knows there's not a racist bone in his body. So for him to be sacked for tweeting a comment about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex baby with a photo of a suited chimpanzee in a top hat seems a bit over the top, especially as he was contrite once his mistake was pointed out to him. No one believes it was intentional racism, so they say. And Danny claims he didn't even know Meghan is mixed race. Of course.
Where do I even start? Where do I even start? Every time, it is the same story. Every time someone is accused of racism. Said person makes a racist comment. The friends of said person comes out speaking about how they don't have a racist bone in their body and how they are just very funny and it wasn't intentional. Same script, different person, different setting. It's the same still. And then the conversation, because said person is now receiving a whole bunch of consequences for their comment, the people around them want to talk about, oh, they should never lost their job. Why are they losing their job? It wasn't intentional, blah, 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 blah. So then the conversation shifts onto the person who received the racism, and now they're the villain. And the person who said the actual racist comment has become this victim, or in so many ways this sort of martyr hero in their eyes. And what the hell is unintentional racism? What is that? Really? And for the love of God, I'm so sick of people talking about they didn't know she was black. I would give you that if you are someone who's in America, because yes, Meghan is very ambiguous. She can look probably like anything, right? That is a given fact. However, that excuse does not fly in the UK because, shall I remind you, the second day of her and Harry's relationship being exposed to the entire world, the second day there was an article for 5 days straight speaking about her black heritage and how she is mixed race. So please, do not tell me, anyone from the UK, do not come and tell me I didn't know she was black. You knew she was black. That was the biggest story after her and Harry's relationship was exposed, was the racist article straight out of Compton. That was the biggest story at that time. And we are still talking about it to this day. So please do not sit up here and tell me you didn't know that she was black. You did know.
Greg, I'm quite depressed about the fact that we're having this debate, if I'm honest, because you're somebody who I think generally sees yourself as an ally of progress. And as Director General of the BBC, you made a number of comments which were championed by people who wanted to see more diversity in broadcasting, which, by the way, is not a battle that's been won. It's an ongoing struggle. I think that I'm ambivalent about this because I don't really feel like I should debate you about whether this tweet was racist. Do you think it was racist, or do we need to argue about whether it was actually racist in the first place?
I think it could easily be interpreted as being racist, yes.
So it could be non-racist?
Oh, no, I think it will be seen as racist. What the discussion is about intent.
I'm just tired. This is gonna be a long video. I am with you. I don't even know why this was up for debate in the first place. And guys, mind you, this video is 4 years old. I just want to keep putting it out there. This is 4 years old, but it doesn't really matter because it relates to what many of us of color is facing today and what Meghan is still facing. But the fact that these people, these non-black people, well, there's one person of color, but even we'll get into him later. The fact that they don't even see this as racism, or they think it could be perceived as racism, it's not shocking, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt any less. And mind you, like I said before, I don't even see a fool on any of these like topics or any of these type of shows anymore. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right places, but when I saw her on the Harry and Meghan documentary, I was like, "Oh, I haven't seen her in a while," because she used to be talking about stuff like this all the time, and she's not even nowhere near to be seen anymore. So this is how I know that the UK definitely does this, where they have their tokens, and the tokens will speak about racism, but it will never go as far as something. It won't never go as far as I feel like a fool used to go. She used to go really deep, and she used to really make good points. And I feel like the people that they have today is just like a watered down version, just to make people feel at ease. It's more like something that your palate can take. It's palatable.
So,
Well, it could be non-racist.
In the context of
If he didn't intend it to be racist, what he could have intended was that we as a society parade royal babies around like performing monkeys.
And that's what he said.
Which is what he said he meant.
He compared the birth and the foot around it to a circus.
If we begin to separate intent from racist actions and cannot see the distinction between racist behaviour and someone being a racist, then I shudder to think the kind of society we're going to end up in, because everybody will be declared racist all the time for microaggressions, which is where the far left are taking us. Yes, the action was racist, but no, he didn't mean to be racist, which is why he immediately apologised for it and deleted it, and then lost his job, and people still wanted to take him to the police.
I don't. Is it really like a challenge not to be racist? Is that like a difficult thing these days? Like, just not to be an a-hole? Just like not to say derogatory racist? Like, is that a hard, difficult task to do? Am I missing something? You can make a billion jokes without being derogatory. You can make a billion jokes about me without bringing up my skin color. Like, anything that's associated with me that's black, you can make a whole bunch of jokes about me. A whole bunch. It's not that hard. Like, are we really... Well, we've been living in that time. It's never changed. And another thing, to have another person of color sitting there, because I don't know his ethnicity or anything like that, but to have him sit there and kind of justify what this Danny Baker person said, it's like, it's not surprising. Because one thing that I'm sure you guys have noticed, and I definitely noticed, is that this topic of racism is, I don't know how the hell it came down to political lines, but it did. These tactics that these channels do now is, instead of these commentators, so they don't sound as racist, they'll put another black person or put another person of color there that's kind of like leaning onto their ideology and what they feel and their emotions and feelings about the topic of racism to kind of like back up their feelings so they can look less racist, because they're like, well, look at this person of color, look at this black person over here, they don't think it's racist. It is almost as bad as the person that's making these comments. It's like, it's just as bad in my eyes. And why is all these people telling black people what this very known common trope of monkeys, comparing monkeys to black people, why are they telling us what is racism? In matter of fact, we didn't create this trope.
Did you think about it though when you were doing it? Did you not think
No,
about
not
the
because
racist connotations?
otherwise I'd have to be some kind of slavering secret racist. I promise you. I would. Nobody invites this onto themselves. No, I had no idea until somebody had been up about 8 minutes. Somebody said, Dan, that's Meghan, what's it? Like, down. On the radio for years I did monkeys dressed as famous people plus fairground music. Because I'm still one of those people who thinks monkeys are quite funny. Not in that context.
Do you accept that some people will think though that it's at very best a bit naive?
Oh, totally. Well, it is. It's not at very best. That's what it is.
First off, in all my many years on this planet, the one thing once I became the legal age to work, one thing that I was always taught is that there are a set of rules that you have to abide by at your job if you want to keep this job. And if you break those rules, you can potentially be fired. I'm sure it's not an easy thing to just let a person go. And there's levels to it, right? You know, if you're a guy who works at the local McDonald's and you so happen to give out too much money back, or, change back to the person once they pay for their food, that can be a warning, right? That could be you probably get written up and you'll still keep your job. And the moment they curse someone out, the customer out, the moment they say a racist comment or a homophobic comment or a sexist comment or sexual harass, those are grounds for like, okay, there ain't no warnings, you out. Like, I thought that was like a known thing, right? Apparently I'm wrong. For this guy, and I don't know his age, but I'm guessing he's like in his 50s. He's been on this planet longer than me. So he was definitely in a time where these types of comments were way more accepting to say those types of things. So for him to say that he didn't know that was racist comments, that is a bunch of
Job and possibly his career over that.
I think I'm going on strike in this debate, if I'm honest, because you know what it is? I'm the only black person in this space. I'm the only black woman in this space. And it's not the first time that I am being called upon I'm feeling supportive vibes from Nick. It is so exhausting to have to sit here and communicate our daily lived experience. These are the kind of things that happen every day in your life. As a black person in this country,
I think if it was made, she said everything that needed to be said. Like, I don't even have to respond to that. However, the guy that was sitting next to her talking about, I fully support you. I fully support everything that you're saying. Sir, you were one of the main people that used to come after Meghan. Now you're just, you saw the light. And now you just see the area ways. Mind you, this came out 4 years ago, again, shall I say, and he has continued to say hurtful, derogatory things about Meghan. So, cut me with the, I'm here for you. You're not. Because if you was, you would stop doing the stuff you would stop saying the stuff that you say, because you're adding to this everlasting vitriol.
Can you be something, a sexist, a racist, a homophobe, if you weren't intending the meaning of those words when you said something that has the consequence of being racist, sexist, or homophobic? No, because intent matters.
I think it does matter, absolutely.
Because also, Afua, again, I understand the history of this slur, but we've got to, look, I suffer from racism as well. We've got to distinguish between intended racism and accidental racism. Yeah. Otherwise, we don't give people the chance to redeem them.
Okay, let's try to have a conversation without the emotion. This whole conversation, this whole segment was about should he lose his job for making this comment? And the answer is yes. Because if that was any of us regular folks, the non-elite, we would be sacked, kicked out. We wouldn't have no one fighting for us, talking about, oh, they shouldn't did that. They didn't mean it wasn't intentional. It was unintentional racism and all that, blah, 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 blah. Racism is racism. Does intent matters? Yes. But does it matter in the workplace? No. If this was a person, a man or woman or whoever who just made a comment, and let's say they didn't know, right? It's still racism. Doesn't take away anything. It's racism. Does intent matter? It does matter. But I can forgive a person, right, for saying something they just may not be fully aware of. And I'll go by, if I keep seeing patterns, their actions from here on out. And if they prove to me, like, no, I didn't mean this is wrong, I educated myself, we're good. Like, I'm all about forgiving people. I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I'm a saint, that I've never said anything that was just not cool. Because, especially when you're younger, you tend to say and do things that is just, you know. So I never sit up here and pretend like I'm some sort of angel on certain topics. But the difference is that I can acknowledge that. And I can say, oh no, that wasn't cool. I know better now. I've learned from that, and that's something I would never say and do ever again in life. That is the difference. But you're sitting up here trying to defend this. This is when this cycle will never end. Because you have people who is being affected by this, and you're trying to say no and gaslight them like, no, this is not a big thing. It is a big thing. That is the difference here. And on top of that, it's in the workplace. But if you want to go create your own business and you can have all a bunch of racist, homophobes, bigots, misogynists, you can have all those isms in your company, fine. Go about it. Go ahead and do it. I can guarantee you there's going to be other things that I can guarantee that business won't last too much longer.
I accept that. I mean, you're sitting back and I get your upset.
I'm ready to speak. I haven't had a chance to come in. In response to your question, Carol, my issue is that everybody makes the person who does the racist thing the victim. So you're asking, is it right that he was sacked? Greg's saying he's a nice guy, he's going to lose his job. How is he the victim in this scenario? This is a pregnant woman who had to arrange new levels of protection because of the amount of racist abuse she was receiving, which escalated when she announced she was pregnant. She's always had racist abuse, but when she announced her pregnancy, it multiplied because there is so much toxic racism in our society.
It's not Danny Baker's fault.
That's not Danny Baker's fault, but what is Danny Baker's fault is that he did something which was so offensive that when I first saw it, I actually thought it was a prank. I just thought nobody who the BBC gives a platform could be stupid enough to say this and not intend it to be racist, because it is one of, and we could talk about unintended racism or microaggressions, this is none of those. This is the most blatant, clear-cut example of racism, is that generations of people have recognized this as an overtly racist trope.
The reason I even decided to do a reaction to this segment is because this shows you a clear picture of how the media responds to the racism that Meghan received just 4 years ago compared to now. And nothing has changed. It is just as bad. I despise people who do things to me, will poke me, slap me, kick me, and then when I react, I'm the bad guy. That is the worst thing. Not the worst. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's one of the worst. I don't know what it's going to take for people to see just the obvious. I think most people get it, but I think that there's this narrative now that the media has successfully, in my eyes, have changed. And they've done this before. When Diana passed, everyone was on their behind. Everyone was on the media behind. But somehow, during those weeks of the funeral and everything, the media was able to switch the narrative onto the palace. So I said it to say, before Meghan and Harry left the royal family, the racism the topic of racism was always directed at the media and how the media was acting towards Meghan. But once her and Harry did that Oprah interview, and Meghan brought up the whole comment about Archie's skin color, the racist comment about Archie's skin color that was within the royal family from someone that was in the royal family, the whole topic of racism is blamed on Meghan. When that was actually her response to not only what the racism that she was dealing with the media, but also within the royal family. It is so agitating, annoying. It angers me, and I know a lot of you. And it's just kind of like, that's why I continue to do this channel, because I don't know who may see this, but hopefully the right people see it, and the right people will, I don't know, have a more effect than maybe this, I'm just some guy. And I just hope one day people will fully wake up and realize that there's a bigger thing going on here. And I always say this. The thing is, I think that when people do see it, I just think it might be too late. And just like a lot of things in this world, we don't respond, or we don't react in the timely fashion that we should. We always react too late.